Henry was a red cardinal with big, round glasses and an even bigger wish to see Chicago. But every time the city sparkled beyond his window, his wings tucked in tight. "What if I get lost?" he whispered. One morning, a warm breeze nudged him outside. Henry hopped to Millennium Park and saw the bean shining like a giant silver moon. In its curve, he saw a tiny bird standing tall. Next, he fluttered past the Chicago Theater sign, glowing like courage in red lights. At Navy Pier, the Ferris wheel turned slowly, and Henry laughed with the wind. By the river, boats glided between towers that touched the clouds. Henry finally understood. Brave didn't mean never feeling scared. Brave meant taking one small flap anyway. That sunset, Henry flew home with Chicago in his heart, no longer lonely, and ready for tomorrow.
You're the calm in my confusion, the truth in every dream I'm choosing.
Henry the Cardinal was perched in the quiet bean field one crisp morning when he noticed something unusual. A small fluffy dog wandering alone. The dog, a Maltipoo named Sonny, looked lost and uncertain, his tiny paws pressing nervously into the soil. Curious and kind-hearted, Henry fluttered down to a nearby stalk and chirped softly. Sonny lifted his head, surprised but comforted by the bright red bird's gentle presence. Though they were very different, Henry stayed close, offering companionship in a moment when Sonny needed it most. That simple act sparked an unexpected friendship. Not long after, they met Melissa, a young girl with a warm smile and a caring heart. She had been searching for Sonny and was overjoyed to find him safe. When she noticed Henry lingering nearby, unafraid, she realized something special had formed between them. From that day on, Henry, Sonny, and Melissa shared a unique bond. Whether in the fields or under the open sky, the three friends reminded each other that kindness, no matter how small, can bring even the most unlikely companions together.
Henry the Cardinal fluttered ahead like a tiny tour guide. "This way," he chirped as Melissa and Sonny stepped into Millennium Park. Then they saw it, a giant silver bean shining like a puddle from the sky. Melissa gasped. Sonny barked at 3 wiggly Sonnies in the reflection. Henry puffed proudly. "That's Cloud Gate, but everyone calls it the Bean." And just like that, Chicago felt magical.
Puts a little bit of sunrise in my sky.
Today we expand our cultural reach. You just learned the word cultural yesterday. Incorrect. I have always known it. I am simply now using it more publicly. Okay, where to next? Navy Pier. Ah, yes, a hub of human activity, commerce, and questionable souvenir decisions. By the time they reached Navy Pier, the place was alive. Music drifting through the air, people laughing, boats cutting across the water like they had somewhere important to be. Every person, every pigeon, one very confused balloon. "Sonny, you cannot adopt the entire pier. We have to go on that." "We do not. You just said we're expanding cultural reach." "Yes, but I did not specify vertical expansion." Oh, this was a mistake. Higher, higher. Look at the lake. I am intentionally not looking at anything. You're doing great. I am enduring. The city stretched behind them. The lake shimmered endlessly ahead. All right, this is acceptable. The energy shifted there, slower, softer. The water moved with a steady calm, and the buildings reflected like they were admiring themselves. This feels different. Less chaos, more dignity. Chaos resumed. Oh, diplomacy with the ducks. You know, yesterday I felt like I didn't belong here yet. You just needed better guides. Elite level guidance. Yeah, I think that was it. We are becoming part of the city. You've been here 2 days. Transformation takes many forms. As I have always said, a city reveals itself properly only when experienced with the correct companions. You literally just made that up, as I have often implied. And just like that, Chicago felt even more like theirs.
Fresh air calling my name. Got dreams in my back pocket.
The Cardinal strutted along the edge of Millennium Park like he owned the skyline. His red feathers caught the sunlight, flashing against the glass towers, while Sonny the Maltipoo trotted beside him, tail bouncing like a metronome set to excitement. Little Melissa skipped ahead, already pointing toward the shimmering curve of Cloud Gate, the bean, like she had discovered it herself. "It's bigger than I imagined," Melissa said, stopping to stare at their reflections, bending into 1,000 strange versions. Henry puffed his chest. "Everything in this city is larger than expectation," he declared, as if he personally had approved the architecture. Sonny gave a soft bark, more interested in a nearby pigeon than philosophy. That's when they heard a hesitant voice behind them. "Excuse me, do you know how to get to the bean?" They turned to see a young woman, Elizabeth, clutching her phone and looking half lost, half hopeful. Melissa grinned immediately. "You're already here," she said, pointing. "That shiny thing? That's it." Elizabeth blinked, then laughed, a kind of relieved, surprised laugh. "Seriously? I walked in circles for 20 minutes. Henry stepped forward with importance. Orientation in a great city is not always about maps. Sometimes it is about perspective. Sonny wagged, clearly agreeing with the general positivity, if not the words. Elizabeth crouched slightly to pet him. "Well, thank you, Sonny," she said after Melissa introduced them all. "You're definitely the most helpful guide here." They spent the next hour together, wandering beneath the bean, taking photos that warped their faces into comical shapes. Melissa insisted on jumping shots. Sonny tried to chase his own reflection, and Henry kept attempting to pose in what he believed were dignified angles. Eventually, Elizabeth admitted, "I've never really explored Chicago before. I just moved here last week." Melissa's eyes lit up. "Then you haven't had real Chicago pizza yet." Henry nodded solemnly. "An essential cultural initiation." Sonny barked again, this time decisively. Not long after, they were seated in a cozy pizzeria a few blocks away. The air smelled like melted cheese and baked dough, rich and comforting. Elizabeth watched as the deep dish pizza arrived, wide and heavy, its layers practically architectural. "This is intense," she said. "It's a commitment," Henry replied. Melissa laughed. "Just try it." Elizabeth took a
Even
bite.
from 1,000 miles away, it's you. You turn my lonely.
The city hummed as it always did, busy, bright, and full of unexpected meetings. Inside, over shared slices and easy conversation, Chicago felt just a little smaller and a lot more welcoming. Henry the Cardinal fluttered low over Wentworth Avenue, his bright red feathers flashing between lanterns that swayed gently in the afternoon breeze. Below him, Sonny the Maltipoo trotted eagerly, his tiny paws tapping against the pavement as his nose twitched at the unfamiliar mix of savory and sweet scents drifting through Chicago's Chinatown. "Slow down, Sonny," called little Melissa, hurrying to keep up while adjusting the strap of her small bag. Beside her, Elizabeth, always a bit more composed, watched the busy street with wide, curious eyes. "I think this is the place," Elizabeth said, pointing to a bustling restaurant with golden characters painted above the entrance and a line stretching out the door. Inside, the clatter of dishes and hum of conversation spilled onto the sidewalk. Henry swooped down and perched on a nearby sign. "If we're going to explore, we might as well start with the best," he chirped. They slipped inside, unnoticed among the crowd. The restaurant was alive with motion, servers weaving between tables with trays of steaming bamboo baskets, families laughing, and the constant hiss of tea being poured. The air was thick with the aroma of dumplings, roasted meats, and fresh buns. Sonny's eyes widened. "It smells amazing in here," he whispered, his tail wagging furiously. A cart rolled past them, stacked high with bamboo steamers. Little Melissa peeked inside one as it passed. "Look, these are dumplings," she said, her voice filled with awe. Elizabeth leaned closer. "And those look like bao buns. I've read about these, soft bread with fillings inside." Henry hopped down onto the edge of the cart, inspecting a steamer with great seriousness. "These appear to be soup dumplings," he declared. "Handle with care." Before anyone could stop him, Sonny gently nudged one of the buns with his nose. It wobbled slightly, and he jumped back in surprise. "It moved!" Elizabeth laughed softly. "It didn't move, Sonny. You did that." They found a quiet corner table that had just been cleared, climbing onto the seats like tiny, unnoticed guests in a world much larger than themselves. A teapot sat waiting, still warm. Little Melissa carefully poured a bit of tea into a small cup. "This feels fancy," she said. Henry puffed his chest. "Dining in Chinatown requires a certain level of elegance." A server passed by and placed another steaming basket on the table next to them. Shrimp dumplings, their translucent wrappers glistening. The group exchanged excited glances. "Should we?" Sonny asked. Elizabeth hesitated for only a moment before smiling. "We're here to explore, aren't we?" They each sampled a bite, Sonny delicately, Melissa with curiosity, Elizabeth thoughtfully, and Henry with surprising confidence. The flavors were new and comforting all at once. Outside, lanterns continued to sway as the city carried on, unaware of the tiny explorers discovering a whole new world inside a Chinatown restaurant, one dumpling at a time.
Henry the Cardinal hopped onto the table, fluffed his bright red feathers, and called, "Team meeting!" Melissa leaned in, Sonny wagged with excitement, and Elizabeth smiled like adventure had already begun. "Galena, Illinois is waiting," Henry chirped. "Pack your curiosity, your snacks, and your biggest road trip smile."
Feels like a dream. I fall asleep to the rhythm of your
The sun had
voice.
just started stretching across the sky when Henry fluffed his bright red feathers and announced, "Today feels like a travel day." "It is a travel day," said Elizabeth, adjusting her sunglasses and smiling. "We're going to Galena." Little Melissa clapped her hands. Road trip. Sonny the Maltipoo spun in excited circles, his tail wagging so fast it looked like a tiny blur. "Does Galena have snacks?" he asked, very seriously. "Plenty." Elizabeth laughed. "And views, and history, and probably more snacks." Henry hopped onto the dashboard as the car hummed to life. Then onward, my friends. Adventure awaits. The road stretched ahead like a ribbon, winding through green fields and gentle hills. Melissa pressed her face to the window. "Look, cows!" "I prefer city pigeons," Henry said with a sniff, though he couldn't help admiring the open sky. Sonny perked up. "I saw a sign. It said cheese. Can we stop for cheese?" "We might," Elizabeth said. "That's the magic of road trips. You never know what you'll find." "Or taste," Sonny added. They stopped at a small roadside shop, the kind with creaky wooden floors and shelves filled with homemade treats. Melissa picked out fudge. "Chocolate swirl." Henry inspected a jar of sunflower seeds. A classic choice. Sonny found himself a biscuit shaped like a bone. "This is the best trip ever," he declared, crumbs already on his nose. Elizabeth leaned against the counter, smiling at her little crew. "Ready to see Galena?" "Ready," they all said together. As they rolled into Galena, the town greeted them with charming brick buildings, cozy shops, and streets that felt like stepping into a storybook. "Wow," Melissa whispered. "It's so pretty." Henry spread his wings slightly. "Historic elegance. I approve." Sonny sniffed the air. "I smell something amazing." "Bakery?" Elizabeth said. "Definitely bakery." They wandered through the streets, laughing, exploring, and discovering little treasures. An old bookstore, a candy shop, a scenic overlook where the hills rolled endlessly into the distance. At the overlook, they paused. "This is my favorite part," Elizabeth said softly. Melissa leaned on the railing. "It feels like we're on top of the world." Henry nodded. "Or at least a very good hill." Sonny sat proudly beside them. "And we got snacks." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in warm oranges and pinks, they headed back to the car. "Best trip ever," Melissa said. "Agreed," said Henry. 5 out of 5 biscuits, Sonny added. Elizabeth smiled as she started the engine. "Same time next adventure?" "Yes," they all cheered. And with that, the little group, now the very best of friends, drove off into the glowing evening, already dreaming of where the road would take them next.
In your eyes, for you are the dream.
One bright morning, Henry the Cardinal bird fluttered excitedly on the windowsill as Sonny the Maltipoo wagged his fluffy tail. Little Melissa and young Lady Elizabeth had been planning a special trip, and today was finally the day. They were all going to Springfield, Illinois. The car ride was full of laughter. Henry flew alongside for part of the journey, occasionally landing nearby, while Sonny sat happily between the girls, peeking out the window. Melissa held a small map, pointing out where they were going, while Elizabeth made sure they stayed on track. Henry the Cardinal perched proudly as the family rolled into Springfield's Lincoln Tomb. Sonny, the Maltipoo, wagged softly beside Melissa and Elizabeth, all of them growing quiet at the grand stone monument. They came to wonder at its beauty and to remember Abraham Lincoln with respect. After a peaceful walk around the historic site, they climbed back in the car, hearts full, and drove toward the Springfield Capitol building for their next discovery. Melissa listened closely, imagining what it would be like inside. Henry circled above the dome, while Sonny sat patiently, enjoying the warm breeze. Finally, they walked to the house of Abraham Lincoln. It felt smaller and more personal, like stepping back in time. Melissa gently held Sonny's leash, while Elizabeth read the signs aloud. Henry rested quietly on a fence, as if respecting the history of the place. As the day came to an end, they sat together, smiling and tired. "This was the best trip ever," Melissa said. Elizabeth nodded. "And we did it together." Henry chirped in agreement, and Sonny gave a happy bark. With hearts full of memories, they headed home.
That early morning, they went to Starved Rock National Park for fun hiking. Melissa asked, squinting at the crinkled map in her hands. Elizabeth smiled gently. "It's an adventure, remember? We don't have to know every step." Above them, Henry the Cardinal swooped down and landed on a low branch. "I like adventures," he chirped. "Plenty to see from up high." Sonny the Maltipoo barked happily, darting ahead on the trail. "Wait up, Sonny!" Melissa giggled. "You're supposed to stay with us. Don't go too far," Elizabeth called after him. "We need to stick together." But Sonny only wagged his tail and kept trotting forward. A few minutes later, Henry circled back quickly. "Hey, where's Sonny?" Melissa froze. "What do you mean? He was just here." Elizabeth turned in a slow circle. "Sonny?" she called. "Come here, boy." The forest stayed quiet. Melissa's voice shook. "He wouldn't just leave us, right?" Henry fluttered nervously. "I didn't see where he went." Elizabeth took a steady breath. "Okay, we don't panic. We'll find him." "But what if he's lost?" Melissa whispered. "Then we'll make sure he isn't for long," Elizabeth replied firmly. "Sonny!" Melissa shouted, her voice echoing through the trees. Henry flew ahead, scanning the ground. "I'll check from above. Keep calling him." Elizabeth stayed close to Melissa. "We'll move slowly. He might hear us." "I'm scared," Melissa admitted. Elizabeth placed a hand on her shoulder. "Me too. But we're together. That matters." Suddenly, a rustle came from the bushes. "Sonny?" Melissa ran forward, but it was only the wind. Henry returned, landing beside them. "Nothing yet." Melissa sighed. Where could he be? As the sunlight softened into evening gold, Henry suddenly stopped mid-flight. "Wait, listen," he said. They all went quiet. "Woof!" Melissa gasped. "That's him! That's Sonny!" "I hear it too," Elizabeth said, pointing. "This way. Follow me," Henry called, darting ahead. They rushed through tall grass and around a bend in the trail. "Sonny," Melissa shouted again. "Woof," came the reply, louder now. "There he is," Henry chirped. Sonny was stuck between two bushes, his tail wagging wildly. "Sonny!" Melissa ran and dropped to her knees, hugging him tight. "You scared me!" Sonny licked her face, barking happily. Elizabeth laughed in relief. "You little wanderer," she said, scratching behind his ears. "We've been looking everywhere for you." Henry landed nearby. "Next time, stay with the group," Sonny barked once, as if saying, "Okay." Melissa smiled through happy tears. "I thought we lost you." Elizabeth looked at both of them. "We didn't. We found him, and we stayed together." As they rested, Elizabeth unfolded the map again. "So, still a little lost," she admitted with a small laugh. Melissa grinned. "That's okay." Henry tilted his head. "Why?" Melissa hugged Sonny. "Because we're not really lost if we're together." Elizabeth nodded. "Exactly. We'll find our way." "Team adventure?" Henry asked. "Team adventure!" Melissa agreed. Sonny barked excitedly. Henry the Cardinal was not an ordinary bird. At least, that's what he liked to believe. Every morning, he perched on the same maple branch outside Elizabeth's window, chest puffed bright red like a tiny sunrise. Elizabeth, a curious young lady with a love for quiet mornings, would open her window just enough to whisper, "Good morning, Henry." And Henry, in his own bird way, chirped back proudly. Down below, Melissa, Elizabeth's new little friend, would be in the yard with Sonny, their fluffy Maltipoo who bounced more than he walked. Sonny believed every squirrel was a personal challenge, and every leaf was worth investigating. One breezy afternoon, something unusual happened. Henry flew down from his branch, something he rarely did, and landed right in front of Melissa and Sonny. He chirped loudly, then hopped forward, then chirped again, as if saying, "Follow me. I think he wants us to go somewhere. Let's see what he's up to." Henry led them to the edge of the yard, then past the fence, and into a quiet patch of woods they had never explored before. The sunlight filtered through the trees like golden ribbons, and everything felt just a little more magical than usual. Finally, Henry stopped. At the base of an old oak tree lay a tiny, trembling bird, another cardinal, but smaller, weaker. Its wing was bent awkwardly. "It's hurt. We have to help it." They carefully brought the injured cardinal home, making a soft nest in a box with a towel. Elizabeth called a wildlife rescue center, and soon help was on the way. All the while, Henry stayed nearby, watching. But here's where things got strange. Where did he go? He wouldn't just leave, but he led us all the way to the woods. Maybe. He didn't need to be there the whole time. That night, as the house grew quiet, Elizabeth thought about it. Henry had always been there in the mornings, always watching, always near. Maybe he hadn't just led them with his wings, but with their attention, their care, their willingness to notice something unusual. The next morning, Henry returned to his branch, chirping as proudly as ever. "Thank you, Henry. We're paying attention now." Because sometimes, the smallest guide doesn't just show you where to go, it teaches you how to see. And from that day on, they noticed more. The rustle in the bushes, the quiet cries, the little things that needed care. Henry still believed he was no ordinary bird. And maybe, just maybe, he was right.
At Elizabeth's place, the team of four made one last plan for their Chicago adventure. Elizabeth wagged like a tiny drummer, and Henry the Cardinal guarded the GPS. But halfway to the Chicago theater, the sky turned black. Rain slammed the windshield, thunder shook the streets, and traffic froze. The show lights glowed far away, but the storm had other plans for them. The wind came first. It whipped through downtown Chicago like a whirlwind, rattling the glass towers and sending loose papers spiraling into the sky. Far below, the streets pulsed with sirens and headlights, the city caught between chaos and awe. At the edge of Millennium Park, Elizabeth stood frozen, her hand gripping Melissa's tightly, while Sonny barked anxiously at her feet. Above them, circling against the darkening sky, was Henry. The Cardinal's red wings flashed like a signal fire. "He's trying to tell us something," Melissa whispered, her voice trembling but certain. A sudden crack split the air. A construction crane, loosened by the wind, groaned and began to tilt. Gasps rippled through the crowd as steel cables snapped one by one. Time seemed to slow. Elizabeth's breath caught. They were directly in its path. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Melissa forward. But Melissa didn't move. "Henry won't leave us," she said, eyes locked on the bird. And he didn't. Henry dove, straight into the storm. His small body cut through the violent air, swooping low and sharp, drawing attention, pulling them, guiding them away from the falling shadow above. Sonny followed instantly, barking and tugging at Elizabeth's coat. Trusting something she couldn't explain, Elizabeth turned, scooping Melissa into her arms and running where Henry led. Seconds later, the crane crashed down behind them with a thunder that shook the ground. Silence followed. Then cheering, sirens, life rushing back in. Elizabeth slowly set Melissa down, her hands shaking. Sonny pressed against her leg, still alert, and Henry. Henry landed gently on a nearby railing, chest rising and falling, feathers ruffled but proud. Melissa stepped forward. "You saved us," she said softly. Henry didn't fly away this time. Instead, he stayed, just for a moment longer, as the city lights flickered on around them, reflecting in the glass towers like stars brought down to earth. In that glowing Chicago evening, amidst the noise and the wonder, four travelers stood together, not lost anymore, not afraid, bound by a journey that had led them exactly where they were meant to be. And as Henry finally took flight again, disappearing into the skyline, they knew something had changed forever. Not the city, but them. So they went back to downtown Chicago and visited the Buckingham Fountain. They sat down to talk about plans and about life, and little Melissa said that it's Sonny the Maltipoo's birthday today. So Henry the Cardinal bird and young Lady Elizabeth left them for a while to buy a birthday cake. And then they all celebrated Sonny the Maltipoo's birthday there at the fountain. They were all very happy, and they even bought balloons, lots of balloons, to culminate that day. A very happy ending.
Fake lashes blink like neon lights. Painted faces steal the night. Hair that shines but isn't real. Silver hoops where the scars won't heal. Why can't you be just normal? Why can't you see what I see? Normal is pretty, simple is gold. You're already everything to me. You don't need the glitter storm or the mask the world adores. You were born a masterpiece. Don't trade that for something more. Let the world keep chasing trends. Let the sparkle fade again. Pretty enough to be simple. That's where true beauty begins. Pretty enough. Pretty enough. Every time you walk into the room, I lose my breath, I fall too soon. Chasing the rhythm of your eyes, I get lost in the paradise. You got me spinning like a record beat. Every word you say pulls me off my feet. Don't need a crown or a golden throne, just your love to call my own. I wanna be the king of your heart, rule the kingdom where dreams start. Hold you close when the nights get cold, write our story in letters of gold. No diamonds, no palace in the stars, just let me be the king of your heart. Dancing under city lights, two souls awake at midnight. Your laughter's painting galaxies, your touch feels like destiny.